Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about something that doesn't get brought up enough. It's stuff I've brought up in the past, and maybe I mention this about once a year, but it just needs to be talked about. And I just saw a link of several studies of this, and I'm just going to kind of put one up above so you guys can kind of see it. A relatively recent one, just done last year, of showing something that people don't realize, that supplementing vitamin C can reduce your gains. Now, we've seen a number of different studies like this. We've seen a number of different studies, and I'm just kind of linking one. We have studies that show people who supplemented large amounts of vitamin C, they gained less strength from resistance training. We've seen ones to where people gained less endurance from doing cardio. And in this particular case, this is a study done on elderly men. They just wanted to see how it affected their muscle gains and everything, and they gained less muscle. In fact, they had a placebo group, and then they had a group that they gave vitamin C and vitamin E, right? The group that was given vitamin C and vitamin E, 500 milligrams vitamin C before and after workout, so basically 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C in a short period of time, which is way, way more than you need, and most people wouldn't get that much from their diet. But that's pretty common in supplements, isn't it? 1,000 milligrams a day. Well, they noticed that the placebo group, actually from resistance training, gained 3.9% increase in muscle mass. The group given the antioxidants, the vitamin C and E, gained 1.4%. 1.4%. So they only gained about 40% of the muscle that the people who were given the placebo gained. Now people say, well, what does that mean? It meant it blunted their muscle gains. Now we've seen other studies to where it didn't fully blunt the muscle gains, but where we saw blunted strength gains. We've definitely seen ones where it interfered with cardio. Now a lot of people are going to go, what? Why? I don't understand. Well, what you guys need to understand is that you've been told nonsense and bro science and lies by the whole bodybuilding and supplement industry. And I'll get to some of that in a second of why that is. They're not explaining to you that disruption of the proteins in your muscle tissue is a requirement to get a training effect. In other words, catabolism and oxidative stress are required to stimulate muscle growth. They're required to stimulate muscle growth. Now, in the case of the vitamin C here, this is a big deal because how many over-the-counter supplements have a ton of vitamin C added in? Or vitamin E, or both? A lot of them do. In fact, sometimes your recovery shakes have vitamin C added in. So if this data is extrapolated, some people say, well, that might only apply to elderly men. Maybe it's more of a problem for them. Well, maybe it isn't. But in them, they gain 60% less muscle from their workouts. So in other words, if this study is legitimately true across multiple demographics, including yours and younger men, that means that post-workout recovery shake that you're taking that contains a bunch of vitamin C in it, or maybe the multivitamin you're taking loaded full of vitamin C, yeah, if it has 500 milligrams in it, before or after you train, shortly within your training window, guess what? You might be losing 60% of your muscle gains. And that sounds like a lot. That sounds like a lot, doesn't it? But here's what people need to understand. Supplement companies don't research crap before they sell you stuff. All right? And I don't know how much clearer that could be made when people are buying all these goofy products. These companies do not spend money on research before they crank products out. I can assure you they don't. They just throw whatever crap they want in a bottle and tell you it's going to work. They just tell you that. And in fact, even vitamin C, I've known medical doctors who legitimately believe that supplementing large amounts of vitamin C could actually harm you. Like they believe it's harmful to you. Well, we know it reduces muscle gains. We know it can reduce strength gains. We know it can reduce endurance gains from training, don't we? Pretty good data. Quite a few studies have been done on this. There are medical doctors who think that supplementing more than you would get in your food normally could harm your health. I've met at least one medical doctor who felt he looked at the way it affected oxidation in the body, and he was even concerned that it could increase cancer rates. Yet here all these people want to take a bunch of vitamin C, and it's in how many supplements just thrown in randomly. when it's hurting your gains. And this kind of goes back to my point of I always tell people supplements aren't just a waste of money. There are times when they can be counterproductive. Here's another thing to think about. You get people who are like, oh yeah, you need this to help your body immediately recover from training or to blunt the catabolic effects of training. Do you understand that if any supplement invented ever actually did that, that you wouldn't gain any muscle? Do you understand that if any cortisol blocking supplement was ever created that blunted the release of cortisol while working out, that your workouts would not produce any muscle mass gains? You could blunt other hormones in the body because their release isn't correlated with increased muscle growth. There was a big meta-analysis done on that about 3 years ago that I covered. That as far as different hormones being released, that testosterone release and growth hormone release from weightlifting wasn't correlated with your muscle gains. But the amount of cortisol that was released was. Well, what sort of workouts produce more cortisol? Hard workouts. Workouts with any sort of volume in them. In other words, if you're doing any appreciable amount of volume, your cortisol starts going up. If someone didn't want to have oxidative stress and they didn't want large cortisol release, they would come in and hit a 1 rep max or a 3 rep max and go home. Maybe 1 or 2 work sets on one big exercise and get out of the gym, right? A 5-minute workout. 5-minute workout, because we find that the more volume you do, the more cortisol is released. Well, we've also correlated that with extra muscle growth. Volume seems to drive adaptation. But why? Because the work done causes oxidation, release of free radicals, release of cortisol, all these things that cause a breakdown, not of physical tearing. People are like, oh, you have to tear down muscle tissue. No, you don't. But you do have to disrupt the proteins. And the disruption of those proteins is a chemical process, not a physical process of pulling on them. And it has to do with working them to the point to where your body starts to break them down for fuel. It starts to catabolize muscle tissue and muscle proteins for fuel. And when that happens, that's correlated with a larger response the other direction. In other words, a very strong catabolic response, your body swings the other direction with a stronger anabolic response. In other words, this is a positive thing if you want to gain muscle. Now, as far as your body's concerned, it's a horrible thing. It's a negative thing. You need to understand the process of gaining muscle is not something your body is happy about. You do terrible things to your muscles in order to facilitate muscle growth. You disrupt them. You force them to do something they're almost not capable of doing. That puts them in a compromised position to where your body feels like those muscles are in danger. And therefore it responds in a way that causes them to get thicker. If there's no disruption, again, we stop the oxidative stress. We stop the release of the cortisol. Your body doesn't get the chemical signal, this chemical message that it needs to make the muscles grow. So you see how this could be a problem? When people start throwing supplements together with the intent of stopping the actual catabolic actions going on in the muscle tissue, they reduce the anabolic actions also. They reduce the stimulus. And this is a perfect example. Vitamin C, vitamin E taken in large amounts. Now, does that mean you need to be concerned about eating broccoli or oranges? No. Because realistically, most of us are not going to eat enough broccoli that this becomes a concern. Now, you only need about 75 milligrams of vitamin C to be healthy. 100 grams of broccoli only contains 89 milligrams. So even like a pound of broccoli, if you were to eat a pound of broccoli a day, which is probably excessive, that's going to contain approximately 4 times that. So we're talking about around 3,600 milligrams. That's still less than the 500. That's a lot of broccoli. Most of us aren't eating that much. And that's around 6 times the amount of vitamin C that you need for ideal health. People need to remember that. When we're given the RDA, people get these crazy ideas that, oh, the RDA is not high enough for people who work out. No, that's not right. That's for normal people. No, that's for healthy people. See the problem with that? And these sort of studies that look at this show you the exact thing, that you can overdose on things like basic vitamins in supplement form to the point to where it actually interferes with what you are trying to achieve, and in this case, muscle and strength. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.